Bill and Jalen's 33-day recap, the second Birdmester.
Welcome to Bill and Jalen's 33-day recap. This is the second Birdmester. This is part 2. We're going to count down our power rankings. Right now, it's about 66, 67, 68 days into the season. We're going to count backwards from 30 to 1. We separated the teams by tiers. And our first tier.
And why do we call it Birdmester? Because we love Larry Joe Bird, the angel that brought Bill Simmons and Jalen Rose together.
And the basketball Jesus. So our first tier is called Sorry for Jabari.
Mishandle for Randall.
What else do you like?
I like Not Caring for Aaron.
That's a good one.
Low C for Embiid.
Oh, you don't swear. I was thinking shit the bead for Embiid.
Yeah, those a couple. And obviously, rigging for Wiggins.
But you have to, we make you do double duty and you're on college game day. So you've been watching a lot of these college dudes, as have I. And the more I watch, the more I think, there's no 2003 LeBron in this class. There's no 2007 Durant. What are people talking about?
Correct. I've got a chance to do my Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah.
Go deep submarine diving.
Yeah.
And really get a glimpse of what we're calling the elite freshman class. Very productive players.
Deep. Super deep.
Super deep class. Every year in the NBA, there's basically at least 30 new players. Mm-hmm. So that means whether they're ready or not, there are going to be 30 new guys on roster spots.
And they're going to be playing.
But for all of these guys that we mentioned, for them to maximize their individual skills as players, I would love to see each of those guys come back another season.
Embiid, definitely.
I said it. I did. There's no LeBron. There's no Shaq. There's no Duncan. There's no Magic.
Period.
In this year's draft.
The guy with the highest upside, I think we can safely say, is Embiid.
Upside, correct.
Highest, if you're just talking about ceilings and you're measuring the guys like buildings, you could be like, LeBron was a 100-story skyscraper. That was his ceiling. Durant, even in college, was this 6'11" guy with three-point range. We'd never seen anything like it. He was like taller T-Mac. He had like a 75-story ceiling. Embiid's in the 50s.
And
Embiid could be the best center in the league someday.
And for the fans, and a lot of people get caught in the metrics, they're going to just pick up the stat sheet and say, Jalen and Bill was talking about Embiid for Kansas. Let me look at his numbers.
Yeah.
His numbers aren't going to jump off the page at you. But let me tell you a couple of things to watch for. And I want you to talk about the theory that we like to discuss about running bigs, Andre Drummond versus what you may see with a Hibbert or a Bynum.
And the eye test, just watching them in person.
He plays comfortably away from the basket. I saw this with Anthony Davis and knew he was going to be a player. When you see a guy that's 6'10", 6'11", catching it at the elbow, doing dribble handoffs, faking it, throwing it to the opposite wing, running to set the pick, drop stepping, catching the ball on the fly, finishing, going towards the basket, shooting efficient, playing within himself, contesting shots without coming down and fouling. Those are the type of things when you say he has the upside that we see that a lot of times the average fan probably just can't see.
And you left out two numbers. One is 7'2". So Davis, you just mentioned, is 6'11".
And
Embiid is 7'2".
And the framing, the two tallest players in the league right now.
Roy Hibbert is 7'2".
Roy Hibbert and the guy from Connecticut.
Oh, Hasheem Thabeet.
Hasheem Thabeet. And by the way, thank you for doing that. And I purposely said that guy, and here's why.
Yeah.
I was a guy that was an All-American a couple of years, played in a couple of NCAA finals and all of that. When I'm at the draft with my red, white suit on, and I know I probably should have chose something different, but I thought I was going to get drafted by the Clippers.
I still like it. I think it was a good choice.
When I see guys that go in the top 3, that go in the top 5, that aren't productive players.
In college?
That in the league.
Oh, in the league.
I kind of put a star or a check by their names. I'm watching those guys. So I'm watching Beasley. I'm watching Oden. I'm watching Thabeet. I'm watching all of these
Wes
players
Johnson.
that go high.
Yeah.
Because if you get a guy, we talking a lot about the draft coming up, right?
Yeah.
And we talking about why these guys need to stay. You know why we think these guys need to stay? Because every year we think guys are going to come out and they go in the top part of the draft,
Right.
and they're not franchise-changing
ready.
players.
And I think Wiggins, hold on, I'll finish quick on B point. 7'2", you see him in person, which we were lucky enough to do in Chicago, and he runs like Serge Ibaka does. Like, you watch Serge Ibaka, and you just think to yourself, God, that guy was built to play basketball. It's just like beautiful to watch him run up and down the court. You watch Greg Oden, or you watch Hasheem Thabeet,
Look like it hurts.
or you watch Andrew Bynum.
It looks like me running down the court now.
Nine parts of their body are going in different directions,
Yes.
and it's like,
Yes.
even like somebody like Kelly Olynyk. You watch Kelly Olynyk, it's like he's running. The front part of his body's out here. His ass is sticking out. His feet are dragging behind him. His body's going in 9 different directions. You watch Embiid for 7'2", and he's just doing this. And I think the other number we left out. What has he been playing basketball for 4 years?
Yeah, he's just a novice.
Started playing like when he was
Couple of years.
14.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, I have my eye on that guy. Jalen, turn your phone off.
I'm trying to get involved with new technology.
Okay.
And
Is it technology that has the silence button?
So I had to get me a LeBron. That's what I call this.
Oh, let's make a terrible commercial with Kevin Hart. Let's play golf and I'll make some bad jokes. So Embiid, and I think Jabari is 80% what I liked about Durant. I worry that he's not totally in shape, and I'm not sure. I know he was hurt before the season. Coach Collins thought he's not going to be better shape after the year when he's able to do like a whole conditioning thing. Defensively, he's not really there. You compared him to Carmelo. To me, he's like almost like a cross between. There's some Carmelo. There's a little Rudy Gay, but the way he sees the game is so much more sophisticated than those guys. He would be my number 1 or 2.
And fans, when we compare a player, and this is the weirdest thing to me ever. And I found out that, do you realize only 175 players in the world have ever scored more points than me? I was proud of that.
Really?
Yes.
175?
Yes. And I found out because I think
I'm proud, and I didn't even do it.
Right? And so, because somebody recently passed me, it was Dwight Howard, and then it was Kevin Durant, I think.
Oh, well,
so
one of those is
an
honor.
The reason why I bring that up is when we compare players, people think you're going to automatically say, oh, if I'm comparing Jabari Parker, he has to be Dr. J. Like, he has to be one of the greatest players of all time, or a sadist. Rudy Gay is a very good NBA player that's played a long time, has made a lot of money, and if he could have his career, Carmelo Anthony's career, as a 6, 7-year-old growing up wanting to play basketball, I'm pretty sure he and his family would take it.
I think the upside for him would be a more fun to play with Carmelo Anthony. That's how I would describe him. The worst case scenario for him is Rudy Gay 2.0.
You know the best thing that happened for him is he went to Duke, because Coach K's not having that.
Right.
And this is the first time, besides Kyrie, and I saw his son with Austin Rivers, that Coach K had to coach a team that his freshman was the best player, so a lot of times everybody kind of clear it out and move out his way and allow him to go one-on-one. Normally they play a lot of pick and roll, a lot of motion, and so he has to play him at 3, 4, 5 on given nights to actually get him off. And so when he having 2 for 10 and he's not really rebounding, not really defending, Coach K, and this is why I feel like it's a good call, doesn't feel the pressure to play him a lot of minutes. He'll sit him down. Bill Self did it with Wiggins.
Right.
He'll sit him down.
Coach K's like, I'm Coach K. I'll be fine if you go to the pros. What, do you think I care? I've won Olympic gold medals. I coached Kobe. I really like Jabari. I like that he can play inside and out. I think he's a natural 4 in this day and age. There's only a couple guys who could come back to haunt him potentially in an NBA game.
Not natural 4, Bill.
No, I mean a natural 4 for this day and age.
Not natural
There's
4.
like against David West, I'd be worried. Against, there's a couple physical guys I'd be worried. But for the most part, nobody has those guys anymore.
But here's the problem.
You could have played a 4 in 2013, 14.
One time in the playoffs for the Denver Nuggets, I started at the 4, and my job was to box out Dennis Rodman and to play point guard for the team.
Just go through all the things like Paul Millsap plays for. He's not bigger than
that.
Jabari,
Actually
you know
did
what I mean?
happen to me my second year in the league. But the reason why I say he can't play 4 in today's game is he could do it against the bad teams. He can't do it against the good teams.
Well, there's only a couple good teams now. There's 25 bad teams.
But all of the good teams have good big men. The Clippers have Blake. Portland
Yeah, see,
has
he couldn't guard Blake.
Aldridge.
He couldn't guard Aldridge.
Golden State has Lee.
He could guard Lee.
No, he could not guard David.
But he'd
Lee.
torch him on the other end. They would just cancel each other out.
And then he wouldn't be one to try to box out Serge Ibaka and go after offensive rebounds.
Serge
and lose
Ibaka's
volleyball.
20 feet from the basket.
And he's averaging a double-double and should be an all-star this year.
I agree with that.
And he got guys like Z-Ball.
But Jabari, if he got in shape, I don't feel like he's in shape yet. That's another thing. I hope he stays 2 years.
The best shape of your life happens when you start looking down at your check and they say National Basketball Association. That's when you're getting paid to be in the league.
To be
getting paid. That's when you're getting paid for a living to be in shape. Right now, he's getting paid to be a student.
Nah, true. I think he got hurt before the whatever the.
Yeah, in high school, he came in.
Yeah, he came
a little
in
bit injured and banged up.
Let me throw this at you. I think there's a really good chance Embiid and Jabari play 2 years in college. I don't think those guys are locks for the draft by any means. I heard that Embiid's coming back.
Or Aaron
I
Gordon.
think Aaron Gordon should play 2 years.
Yes.
The guy that I think is going to come out and shouldn't, because I think he could use the 2 years more than anybody, is Wiggins, Andrew Wiggins. Because
I agree.
there was a couple times I've watched them where they posted him up, and it became mostly out of like necessity, just because nothing else was working. And he had a really interesting post-up game, and I was thinking like, man, there's a guy that you want him to spend the 2 years in college. It's weird to compare him to Len Bias, who's one of my favorite college players ever, who got drafted by my team, and then you know the rest.
Maryland, absolutely.
I mean, I still haven't gotten over it, but Len Bias, as he played at Maryland, he stayed. He developed the little low post game. He developed little things, and I wish that could happen with Wiggins.
I'm going to turn to a fan right here. This is way before YouTube. There were a couple of games that I had on VHS VCR tape. One of them I used to watch all of the time was when Lethal Weapon 3, Georgia Tech, played against Steve Smith in Michigan State. I loved that game. I watched it all of the time.
That was Kenny Dennis Guy? Oh, they had that
Brian
one.
Oliver.
That was right before you got to college.
Yes.
I remember where I watched that game. That was
Exactly.
such a good game.
I
love Lethal Weapon.
No doubt about it. I love the UNLV Loyola Marymount game. I have that game on VHS. I used to watch that game endlessly.
You know, I used to shoot my free throws in intramurals in college left-handed. The first
Really?
one, yeah, for Hank Gathers.
That's much love.
Yeah, no,
and
I didn't.
And the way they played that year is just terrific.
So much fun to watch.
And obviously there were a lot of Michigan games, including the time when they played against Illinois. That was one of their big rivals. Had Nick Anderson, Kenny Battle.
Right.
I could have V's in my hair like Marcus Liberty. He was one of my favorite players coming out of Chicago.
I thought we weren't going to talk about that anymore.
I know. And one of the other games I had,
UNC Maryland?
UNC Maryland.
The dunk, the steal, the dunk over the head.
Goodness. Yeah. And Carolina, for all you youngsters, I want you to pull this up. I'm pretty sure you can Google it.
It's on YouTube now.
Yeah, it should be. They had James Worthy and Michael Jordan.
No, they didn't. They had Perkins, and that's what it was.
Perkins and Jordan. It was the year when Worthy left.
Yeah.
So you got Michael Jordan out there on the floor, and you got Sam Perkins. Both of those guys, obviously Michael Jordan went on to be one of the greatest players, if not the greatest ever. Len Bias was the best player on the court.
Right.
It wasn't even, when you watch those two guys as prospects, you're like, whoa.
And that the dunk steal dunk might have been the next year, but he every year would go hard against Carolina. But anyway,
but that accentuates the point that we're making.
He stayed in college.
Yes.
He learned how to play basketball.
And all of the games that I'm describing were from teams that played a couple of years.
Right. Because I think Wiggins, my fear for him is that he becomes poor man's Tracy McGrady. And just this guy who drifts in and out of games, has some skills, gets hot, becomes a heat check guy, plays above the rim, but doesn't really have the full game. And I think if he stayed in college and developed that bias side, I think he'd be unstoppable because he can post up.
There are 450 jobs, 30 teams, 15 roster spots. I say this ad nauseum and it will never stop. The thing that I love about being an NBA prospect and a former NBA player is people really understate how good these guys are. And I'm going to compare Wiggins to a player that if he got stuck guarding this player right now, the average fan would think he should dominate him. But I think he has to continue to develop so he can be more like DeMar DeRozan.
Oh.
Playing for the Toronto Raptors. They're playing good basketball. They won 10 out of their last 14. I talked about him on our podcast being a scorer that can make threes, around a 20-point score. They trade Rudy Gay. He's getting more minutes.
More shots.
He's getting more opportunity.
Oh, you're up for Rudy Gay trades now.
Good one.
You're here, Rudy Gay. That was our biggest fight.
And we talked about the team. Heck, speaking of that, why does Boogie and Isaiah have to get a meetings? I thought Rudy Gay was going to get a meetings.
Come on. So anyway, this brings us back to our power poll. It's a deep lottery. It's a deep draft. I don't think people realize that there are no saviors in this draft. I love Julius Randle.
He's an
I
athletic
love Jabari.
Z-ball.
Yeah, there's guys that I really like that could be all-stars. There's not a Durant in this draft that I see.
Not at all.
I like Marcus Smart.
I
I like
Marcus
Gordon.
Smart.
I think Gary Harris is going to be freaking awesome. If
He
you
is
get
from
him at
Michigan
number
State.
9,
Yep.
that's a guy. He could be like 5 all-star teams.
But the great thing,
But there's no Durant.
The great thing about this discussion, and even Dante Exum, he's an overseas.
Well, that's a
player
guy.
for all
I
these
have
guys.
no opinion on him.
So what ends up happening is we throw out 8 or 9 prospects like we just did. None of those guys you would bet your life savings on are going to be franchise-changing players. So we ask.
And I would bet on Embiid. If I had to bet on one guy,
I would bet on Randall.
oh, I love Randall. I used to be on Randall's corner. Why aren't I on Randall's corner? You just took Randall's corner from me.
Because I watch guys, the rebounds just fall into their hands.
Well, that's the thing. He always ends up 23 and 15.
And I'll tell you a couple of those guys in today's game. It happens with Kevin Love.
Yep.
It happens with Blake Griffin.
They're moving a split second faster.
Rebound just fall. Rebound. It happens with Zebo.
Yeah.
Rebound just fall into their hands. So I like players like that. So I think that's going to be a consistent trait. Moses Malone was like that. Charles Barkley was like that. So I think he's going to have a skill set.
But he won't be as good as Moses Malone.
No, I don't.
No, but
he's an MVP though. Moses Malone was an MVP of the league.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But he could be somebody that puts up 22 and 12 every night.
My point exactly.
Right. He could be the best player on a really good team that's surrounded by other good dudes, or he could be the second best player on a title team.
Yep. So if I'm him, out of all of those guys, if I had to pick who should 100% come out,
yeah, Randall should come
it should be Julius.
Well, also, like they're quadruple teaming him, and he's playing with like 18-year-old point guards. Like you put him on a real team, I think he could be an asset. I'm with you. All right. You know what we're gonna do? Oh wait, did we have anything to talk about the draft?
No, we're gonna be there.
Well, no, just like it's deep though, because I think the funny thing about this draft is all these teams are going to throw away their season to go 15, like Utah, Milwaukee.
Well, they're productive players, like Payne for Michigan State. He's going to come in the NBA and be a stretch 4. He should be able to do what Rashard Lewis has done somewhat.
Right, and so you're talking like a playoff team could somehow get that guy at like 22. I think what's interesting, you look at last year's draft, Michael Carter-Williams or Giannis, the Greek freak, would go 1 or 2 in some order if they did that draft over again. Michael Carter-Williams went 11th. Greek Freak went 15th. And I think maybe this draft could be like that. There might be some guy you get, somebody just misses the playoffs. They try to get there, they don't get there. And then they end up with the best player in the draft because it's so deep, somebody might get shoved down.
And you look at a player like Trey Burke who ended up going to Utah.
Right.
Minnesota could use him.
Right.
You have him to go with Pekovic and Love.
We try to tell him during the draft.
Because we like Rubio, but I'm going to just throw it out there. He's overrated.
You don't like point guards who can't make a shot?
Well, I like point guards that have a little fire in their butt. And I can't imagine him get upset at anybody on the court, a teammate or an opponent.
Well, the other problem is any good team they don't guard him. Like I went to a game when the Clippers were like 3 minutes left. Oh, all right, we just won't guard Rubio anymore. We're just going to use his guy to double team Kevin Love. In the playoffs, that's a killer. You can't do that.
And I think that's the true, like, they have players on their team that have basketball slim builds. Kevin Martin, Corey Brewer, Rubio. And then you got a guy like Pekovic who can break a brick wall with his head.
Right.
And so
it probably has.
Right. And so that dynamic really doesn't work well for me. I thought they should have gave Williams some minutes. He went to Sacramento. He's playing pretty well with the minutes.
I didn't like that trade.
I just don't know if the formula of Rubio at the point is going to lead them where they're really trying to go.
We got too sidetracked. The point is, we're about to do power rankings, which we're now going to have to move to a third clip. But I think people have overrated this draft a tiny bit from a ceiling standpoint. And at some point, we should do a podcast with Chad Ford and really go at him about this, because I think he might think Embiid is the best guy or the best prospect. But I don't know. I've been slightly disappointed. I was all ready to watch these college guys. It's like, oh, great, Arizona's on. And then Aaron Gordon, will take 3 shots.
But the only thing, Chad changes picks every 5 minutes. Like, I'll be following Chad, and all of a sudden it's halftime. I got 0 for 3. He go from being the number 3 prospect to the number 9 prospect.
Chad's got a real-time draft board. We have to get him on. I love when there's a good draft and Chad is just all in when things are moving. There's arrows. Somebody has one good game, they jump up. Anyway, all right, that's the end of part 2. We covered the draft. Now, I swear to God, in this next one, we're going to do power rankings from 30 to 1. Stay tuned for that, part 3.
Shout, Larry
The
Legend.
second Birdmester. We will be back.
What's up, Mogul?